Okay, so this is coming out late. I apologize. This is for Friday, March 14th, 2025, Sanhedrin 87. So it says, this is at the end of 86. We're in the middle of a statement here, so I'm going to go to the end of 86. It says, the sages taught with regard to that which is stated. It says that if there shall be a matter too hard for you, yipaleh. Now we're in 87. It says, it is with regard to the most distinguished or mulfa member of the court, an ordained expert judge, that the verse is speaking. For you, mimcha, this is reference to an advisor who is consulted with regard to significant matters, such as the intercalculation of the year. And likewise, it says, from you, or mimech, he emerged, who devised evil against the Lord, an advisor of wickedness, Nahum 1:11. A matter, quote, a matter. This is a halakha transmitted to Moses from Sinai, and then, quote, in judgment, this is a logical inference, which is one of her numerical principles. Quote, between blood and blood, this is the ability to discern between the disparate halakha relevant to the blood of a menstruating woman and the blood of childbirth and the blood of a gonorrhea-like discharge or a tziva. Between plea and plea, this is the ability to discern between cases of capital law and cases of monetary law, with regard to which there are differences in evidence protocols and laws involving the ability to receive lashes. Quote, between mark and mark, this is the ability to discern between disparate halachot relevant to leprous marks of a person, leprous marks on houses, and leprous marks on garments. Leviticus chapter 14. So matters of, or divrei, matters of these are the dedications to God or to a priest, and the valuations of one's value to the temple, and the consecrations, all of which are matters of speech, or dibor. Controversy, so quote, controversy, this is the giving of the bitter waters to a sota. See Numbers chapter 5, which results from a dispute between a husband and wife, and a heifer whose neck is broken, which results from an unresolved murder, Deuteronomy 21, verses 9 through 1, and the purification of a leper, which is afflicted due to evil speech. Quote, within your gates, this is referring to gleanings, forgotten sheaves, and produce in the corner of a field, or the peah, all of which are given to the poor who eat at the gates of the city. Quote, then you shall arise from the court where he sits as judge, quote, and ascend. This teaches that the temple is higher than the rest of Eretz Yisrael, and Eretz Yisrael is higher than all the other lands. Therefore, the language of ascent is employed with regard to travel to Eretz Yisrael. And I want to point out, this is actually interesting because a lot of the Jewish mystics that talk about meditation, they talk about first having to ascend and then descend to the point of your focus. And it's interesting how that is how, if anybody around the world travels the land of Israel today, you're pretty much going to fly there where you have to ascend and then descend. I think that's just an interesting connection, but keep going. Quote, to the place that the Lord your God shall choose. This teaches that the location that God chose for the Sanhedrin to convene causes their rulings to be authoritative. In the sense here in the Mishnah that the rebellious elder who instructs others to act contrary to the ruling issued there is liable. The Gemara asks, granted, the fact that the temple is higher than the rest of Eretz Yisrael is derived from this verse, as it is written, quote, and ascend. But from where does the Tana derive the fact that Eretz Yisrael is higher than all the other lands? The Gemara answers that it is derived from this verse, as it is written, quote, therefore, behold, the days come, says the Lord, and they will no longer say, as the Lord lives, who brought up the children of Israel from the land of Egypt, rather, as the Lord lives, who brought up and led the descendants of the house of Israel from the north country, and from all the countries where I had driven them, and they shall dwell upon their land. Jeremiah 23, 7-8. Apparently coming from other countries, the Eretz Yisrael is also characterized as ascent. This is actually very interesting because most people think in this nice scientific way where it's like, oh, well, above sea, the height, the elevation above sea level is not that high, and we have the Himalayas and everything else. But we know that the earth is curved. So if Jerusalem's here, regardless of how high it is compared to sea level, it would be higher than the rest of the earth. So if next time somebody says, well, that's not exactly true, you could tell them, well, in God's eyes, this is how the earth is made. We recognize that. We don't believe the earth is flat. And therefore, because Jerusalem is here, Har Habayit is here, it's higher than all the rest of the lands. So that's how that works. The curvature of the earth. Okay. Next page. Okay, so the sages taught in Braita, a rebellious elder is liable only for instructing another to perform an action involving a matter. for whose intentional violation one is liable to receive karet, and for whose unwitting violation one is liable to bring a sin offering. So karet, the spiritual excision. It's the rearranging of the letters of Keter, which is the crown of Torah. So if you're thrown out, you're spiritually cut off, then your crown is, the letters are rearranged to spell karet. Okay, so a sin offering, this is the statement of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says one is liable for a matter whose essence is known from the words of the Torah itself and whose explanation is understood from traditional rabbinic interpretations of the Torah. The elder is not liable if the essence of the matter with regard to which he issues his ruling does not appear in the Torah, or if the entire matter is written in the Torah. Rabbi Shimon says even if he differs with regard to one of the minutiae of the scribes in interpreting the Torah, the elder is liable irrespective of the severity of the transgression. The Gemara elaborates. What is the reason for the opinion of Rabbi Meir? He derives a verbal analogy between the term matter written here and the term matter or davar written there. Written elsewhere. Here, matter or davar is written with the verse, if, quote, if there shall be a matter too hard for you in judgment, Deuteronomy 17, verse 8. And there it is written, quote, and the matter shall be concealed from the eyes of the assembly, Leviticus 4:13. Just as there, in the verse in Leviticus, the sin offering of the congregation is brought only for a matter for whose intentional violation one is liable to receive karet, and for whose unwitting violation one is liable to bring a sin offering, so to here the rebellious elder is liable only for a matter for whose intentional violation one is liable to receive karet, and for whose unwitting violation one is liable to bring a sin offering. And what is the reason for the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda? It is as it is written with regard to the rebellious elder, according to the Torah, that they shall instruct you, Deuteronomy 17:11, indicating that there is no liability until it is a matter that consists of elements of both the written Torah and that the sages shall instruct you in an interpretation of the written Torah. And what is the reason for the opinion of Rabbi Shimon? It is as it is written with regard to the rebellious elder, quote, that they shall declare unto you from that place, Deuteronomy 17, verse 10, from which Rabbi Shimon derives that one is liable even if he deviates from the ruling of the Sanhedrin to any degree whatsoever. Rav Huna bar Hananya said to Rava, interpret for me that Baraita, in which the liability of the rebellious elder for rulings in different areas of halacha is derived from the verse, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir, who says that the rebellious elder is liable only for a matter for whose intentional violation one is liable to receive karet, and for whose unwitting violation one is liable to bring a sin offering. How is such a prohibition found in each of the categories enumerated in the Baraita? Rava said to Rav Papa, his student, go and interpret it for him. So Rav Papa said to Rav Huna, if there shall be a matter too hard, that's a quote, if there shall be a matter too hard, there the verse is speaking with regard to the most distinguished member of the court, quote, for you, this is referring to an advisor who knows how to intercalculate years and establish months. How is there liability in this matter for karet as a sin offering? It is as we have learned in a Mishnah, and Eduyot 7:7, Rabbi Yehoshua and Rabbi Papeas testified that the judges may intercalculate the year throughout the entire month of Adar, as the other sages would say that the judges may do so only until the day of Purim. So a ruling contrary to the ruling of the Sanhedrin can result in a matter for which one is liable to receive karet, as if his disagreement is to this side, that is, the court intercalculated the year and the rebellious elder ruled that the year is not intercalculated. This ruling permits consumption of leavened bread on Pesach according to the calendar established by the Sanhedrin, and if his disagreement is to that side, the court did not intercalculate the year and the rebellious elder ruled that the year is intercalated. His ruling permits consumption of leavened bread on Pesach according to the calendar established by the Sanhedrin. So one who intentionally eats leavened bread on Passover is liable to receive karet, and one who does so unwittingly is liable to bring a sin offering. Okay. Davar, a matter. This is a halakha transmitted to Moses from Sinai. This is a matter involving karet in the case of the halachot of 11 days, which is the minimal number of days between one menstrual period and another. Even if a woman experiences flow of blood on 3 consecutive days during those 11 days, she assumes the status of a greater tzava. With regard to whom there are unique halachot, such as the passage of 7 clean days before purification by Torah law. When a woman experiences a discharge of blood for 1 or 2 days, she is a lesser tzava. If she observes the 3rd day clean from the discharge of blood, she may immerse immediately, and she is virtually pure. As it is stated there, that there is in Amoric dispute. So that's from the Talmud, not rather than the Mishnah, the sages from the Talmud. With regard to a woman who experiences a discharge of blood on the 10th of those 11 days, Rabbi Yochanan says the status of the 10th day is like that of the 9th, and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says the status of the 10th is like the 11th. The Gemara elaborates. Rabbi Yochanan says the status of the 10th day is like the 9th, just as a discharge on the 9th requires the woman to examine herself the following day and requires the observance of a day clean from discharges. So too does a discharge on the 10th require observance of a day clean from discharges on the 11th day before immersing in a mikveh. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, the woman who experiences a discharge on the 10th assumes the status of a woman who discharges a clean day for 1 or 2 days after she experiences a discharge. And Reish Lakish says the status of the 10th is like that of the 11th, just as a discharge on the 11th day does not require observance of a day clean from discharge before immersion in a ritual bath, so too does a discharge on the 10th not require observance of a day clean from discharges on the 11th. So even if she were to experience a discharge of blood on the days that follow, and this section is just an editorial thing that I'm reading, even if she were to experience a discharge of blood on the days that follow, and the 11th and the 12th days, she would not assume the status of a greater tzava, as in that case, the blood that she saw on the 12th day would be the blood of menstruation and not the discharge of a tzava. According to Reish Lakish, she does not assume that status. Therefore, if the Sanhedrin issued a ruling in accordance with Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, one who engages in intercourse with that woman before her purification is liable to receive karet. If the rebellious elder issued a ruling in accordance with the opinion of Reish Lakish, the one who intentionally engaged in intercourse with the woman is liable to receive karet. If he did so unwittingly, he is liable to bring a sin offering. Okay, so back into the the text. It says, Mishpat, in judgment. This is a logical inference, Zehadin, which is one of the hermeneutical principles. For example, the halakha of the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's daughter born from the victim of his rape. As Rava says, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avodimi said to me, this prohibition is derived by means of a verbal analogy between the word henna in the verse, the nakedness of your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, even their nakedness you shall not uncover, for theirs, or henna, is your own nakedness. Leviticus 18, verse 10. The word henna, in a different verse, quote, you shall not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. You shall not take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness. They, or henna, are near kinswomen. It is lewdness. Leviticus 18:17. This verbal analogy indicates that just as intercourse with one's granddaughter and with one's wife's daughter or granddaughter is forbidden, so too intercourse with one's daughter is prohibited. Furthermore, it is derived from a verbal analogy between the word lewdness, Leviticus 18:17, zima, and the word lewdness, or zima, and in the verse, quote, and if a man take with his wife also her mother, it is lewdness, they shall be burned with fire, both he and they, so that there be no lewdness among you. Leviticus 20:14. That one who engages in intercourse with his daughter or granddaughter is liable to be executed by burning. So, bein dam la dam, so between blood and blood, this is the ability to discern between the disparate halachot relevant to the blood of menstruation, the blood of childbirth, and the blood of a discharge or a ziva. In each of these cases, there is a dispute between the sages with regard to the matter for whose intentional violation one is liable to receive karet. In the case of the blood of menstruation, it is with regard to the issue that is the subject of the dispute between Akavia ben Mahalalel and the rabbis. So when it says the rabbis, it means the majority. As we learned in a Mishnah, Nida 19a, with regard to blood that is green, that is discharged by a woman, Akavia ben Mahalalel deems it blood of menstruation and impure, and the rabbis deem it pure. So the rabbis, we follow the majority. So according to Akavia ben Mahalalel, one who engaged in intercourse with a woman who discharged green blood is liable to receive karet, or according to the rabbis, he is exempt. In the case of the blood of childbirth, the dispute concerning such prohibition is with regard to the issue that is the subject of the dispute between Rav and Levi. This is, as it was stated, that Rav says, blood that a woman discharged after childbirth is all from one source. The Torah deemed ritually impure the blood discharged for 1 week after the birth of a male and 2 weeks after the birth of a female. The Torah deemed ritually pure the blood that is discharged for the subsequent 33 days for a male and 66 days for a female. Even if the blood flows continuously, the status of the blood changes after the conclusion of the period of impurity. Levi Amar, Levi says, it is from two sources. The impure source is sealed after 1 week for a male and 2 weeks for a female. And then the pure source is opened. And at the conclusion of the period of the discharge of pure blood, the pure source is sealed and the impure source is opened. There's not, in the text, there's not a word for source. It's just the editor's adding that. So it's just the impure is opened. So only if the flow of impure blood ceases is a subsequent discharge deemed pure. Therefore, if one engaged in intercourse with a woman who experienced a continuous flow of blood beyond the time of the conclusion of the period of the flow of pure blood, again, this is from a childbirth, according to Levi, he is liable to receive karet, and according to Rav, he is exempt. In the case of blood of Ziva, the dispute concerning a prohibition is with regard to the issue that is the subject of the dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua. As we learned in a Mishnah, Nida 36b, in a case where a woman experienced labor pain accompanied by an emission of blood lasting 3 consecutive days within the 11 days, so between the periods when her emissions render her a menstruating woman, during which the emission of blood renders the woman a zava, if she ceased to experience labor for a 24-hour period, indicating that blood was not the result of imminent birth, and then she gave birth, that one woman gives birth as a zava, and is liable to bring the purification offerings of both a woman after childbirth and a zava. This is the statement of Rabbi Eliezer. The Mishnah continues, and Rabbi Yehoshua says that is her status only if she ceased experiencing labor for a 24-hour period, that is, a night and the day that follows, like Shabbat evening and the day that follows it. When the Mishnah says that she ceased, it is referring to a case where she ceased from having labor pains and not from having the flow of blood. So the dispute is whether the woman who gave birth has the status of a zava, who is required to count 7 days before immersing in flowing water, or whether she has the status of a woman after childbirth. If the 2 weeks of the blood of impurity after childbirth elapsed and she did not immerse in flowing water, according to Rabbi Eliezer, she remains a zava, and one who engages in intercourse with her is liable to receive karet. According to Rabbi Yehoshua, at that point the blood becomes the blood of purity, and one who engages in intercourse with her is not liable to receive karet. Being din ledin, between plea and plea, or judgment and judgment. This is the ability to discern between cases of capital law, cases of monetary law, and cases of law involving lashes. The Gemara elaborates, in cases of monetary law, the dispute concerning such prohibition is with regard to the issue that is subject of the dispute between Shemuel and Rabbi Abahu, as Shemuel says with regard to two judges who sat in judgment and issued a ruling in cases of monetary law. The ruling is a valid ruling, but they are characterized as an impudent court. And Rabbi Abahu says everyone agrees that their ruling is not a valid ruling. If a tribunal of two judges rules that one of the litigants must pay the other money, and that litigant uses the money to betroth the woman, according to Shemuel, she is betrothed, and one who intentionally engages in intercourse with her is liable to receive karet, because she is a married woman. According to Rabbi Abahu, she is not betrothed. One who engages in intercourse with her is not liable. And again, so I've had to deal with some people debating whether betrothal is marriage, and it is absolutely marriage. And I believe it's Deuteronomy 22, 23, and 24, where it says, if there's a betrothed woman in the city and someone finds her and lays with her and she doesn't cry out, they're obviously executed because they committed adultery. And it says specifically, and the man is killed because he was with somebody else's wife. And this is referring to the woman who's betrothed, it's not the full process of marriage, but that is the Torah proof that betrothal is marriage. So in cases of capital law, the dispute between such a prohibition is with regard to the issue that is the subject of the dispute between Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi and the rabbis, meaning the majority, as it is taught in a Braita that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says with regard to that which is written, if men struggle and they hurt a pregnant woman, and if there shall be a tragedy, you shall give a life for a life. Exodus 21, 22 to 23. The reference is to a monetary payment for the life that he took. The tragedy referenced is the unintentional killing of the mother. The Tana deliberates. So Tana is from the Mishnah. The Tana is from the Mishnah. So the Tana deliberates. Do you say that the reference is to a monetary payment, or perhaps the reference is only to giving his actual life? Based on the language employed in the verse, it can be determined the reference is to monetary payment. In these verses, giving is stated above, quote, and you shall give a life for life. And giving is stated below, quote, he shall be punished as the husband of the woman shall impose upon him, and he shall give as the judge determines. Exodus 21:23. Just as there in the phrase, give as the judge determines, the reference is to monetary payment, so to here in the phrase, give a life for life, the reference is to monetary payment. The rabbis hold, the majority, hold that the reference is to giving his actual life. If an heir of the victim betrothed the woman with money seized from the assailant, according to Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, the woman is betrothed. Well, according to the rabbis, or the majority, she is not betrothed. In cases of law involving lashes, the dispute concerning such a prohibition is with regard to the issue that is the subject of the dispute between Rabbi Yishmael and the rabbis, as we learned in a Mishnah 2a. Cases concerning the violation of prohibitions that render one liable to receive lashes are adjudicated by 3 judges, and that's Sanhedrin 2a. The sages stated in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, cases concerning lashes that are adjudicated by 23 judges. According to Rabbi Yishmael, if a tribunal of 3 sentences an individual to lashes, that individual can claim damages for any injury caused as a result of the lashes, if he betroths a woman with that money and the betrothal is valid. According to the rabbis, he cannot claim damages, as the court is authorized to sentence him to receive lashes. Nega lenega, between mark and mark. This is the ability to discern between the disparate halachot relevant to leprous marks of a person, leprous marks on houses, and leprous marks on garments. Negei adam, in the case of leprous marks on a person, the dispute concerning such prohibition is with regard to the issue that the subject of the dispute between Rabbi Yehoshua and the rabbis, as we learned in a Mishnah, so Nagaim 4:11, if the snow white leprous mark, Baheret, preceded the white hair, the individual is impure with regard to leprosy, as it is the order of events that appears in the Torah. And if the white hair preceded the Baheret, the individual is pure. If there is uncertainty concerning which appeared first, the rabbis say he is impure, and Rabbi Yehoshua says it has darkened. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of it has darkened? Rava says its status is like that of a Baharat that darkened, with regard to which the Torah says that he is pure. If one with a Baharat and a white hair entered the temple, there is uncertainty concerning which appeared first. According to the rabbis, he is liable to receive karet, and according to Rabbi Yehoshua, he is not liable. But we follow the rabbis, the majority. So, Nigei batim. So, in the case of leprous marks of houses, the dispute concerning such a prohibition is with regard to the issue that the subject of the dispute between Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, and the rabbis, as we learned in a Mishnah, see Nagaim 12:3. Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, says, a house is never deemed impure with leprosy unless the leprous mark will be seen to be the size of 2 Sicilian beans on 2 stones on 2 walls and a corner between 2 walls. The length of the mark is that of 2 Sicilian beans, and its width is that of 1 Sicilian bean. Odd statement. The Gemara asks, what is the reason for the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon? The Gemara answers, the word wall is written in the verse, and the word walls is written in the same verse. And he shall see the leprous mark in the walls of the house, with hollow streaks, greenish and reddish, and their appearance is lower than the wall. Leviticus 14:37. Which is one wall that is like multiple walls? You must say it is a corner between 2 walls. The rabbis hold that it is a leprous house, even if the mark appears on 1 wall. Therefore, one who entered a house with the leprous mark on 1 wall and then entered the temple is liable to receive karet, according to the rabbis. According to Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, he is not liable. In the case of leprous marks on garments, Nigei Vagadim, the dispute concerning such prohibition is with regard to the issue that is the subject of the dispute between Rabbi Yonatan ben of Ptolemos and the rabbis. As it is taught in Braita, Rabbi Yonatan ben of Ptolemos says, from where is it derived? And then it goes into 88. So we'll get to that next video. Thanks.